Good afternoon. It's Mr. Taylor here today, and I'm with my mentor, Mr. Irvin.
How you doing?
Today he is giving me feedback off of Standard 8. And for Standard 8, the guiding question is, how does the candidate use multiple instructional strategies to help students develop deep understanding of content areas and build skills for applying knowledge that for applying that knowledge in meaningful ways? And Mr. Irvin has watched my video. And one thing I wanted to say before he gave me my feedback, that I've noticed myself a lot of areas that I can improve in. One thing specific is when I have the rotation in my class, just being able to use a better time management as far as going in the back, checking on the kids doing it already, and then going back up front at the teacher station, lesson up front on the smart board. As you would see in my video, I had to use another teacher to to record my videos, and one of my students asked or informed the teacher that that she was a little confused and needed help, and the teacher, instead of helping them, kind of kept recording, which is what I asked them to do. But by me going back looking at that video, that allows me to see that I need to come up with better teaching strategies while I'm in class to be able to assist students who actually needs help. So, Mr. Irvin, what do you have for me, sir?
Yeah, I'll start with that one. That was key that you were being self-reflective and noticed that while watching the video, the student did ask for help and the teacher adult didn't give them the help that they needed. And so I think in that case, because maybe the teacher could have been thinking about many things. Obviously, they weren't thinking about the student helping the student at the time. They was more focused on recording. If at that time where the teacher is recording or doing something, some task that you gave them to do, if they want to communicate that the student needs help, maybe you have a nonverbal cue. Develop some type of nonverbal communication with that student. So while they're doing their task, if and when a student needs some help and the teacher isn't available to give the student some assistance, they can have a nonverbal cue. Maybe they'll get in touch with you and tap your shoulder or maybe scratch his head, but just that way so you won't stop teaching. And it also will let the student know that when they see that nonverbal cue that they really want to help, but because of something else going on, the nonverbal cue has been given, so we are alerted that student needs some help, and then that teacher can come back to that student later after they're already done giving help to someone else, or after they're done helping you, or then when you're finished instructing the class, you can be able to go and help that student. Or even a nonverbal cue where the student asks for help, the teacher wasn't able to provide, but they can be able to give you now a nonverbal cue in the middle of your teaching to let you know, hey, I didn't get that concept, right? But they're not saying it, they're tapping, and you know what that tap means.
Great. That's a great idea. Something I have tried, but I have to say I haven't been consistent with doing. My question would be the feedback I'm looking for that particular lesson is because here we use already on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in the classroom by myself, because I don't have a co-teacher, what do you think is best besides the non-cue verbals? Because that would just allow me inform me that a student need assistance. Mm-hmm. But because I'm going back and forth, once I go in the back with the students on already, like what's I guess I can't say a quick way, but what's a great way to help assess that student and make sure they are understanding or creating some type of deeper understanding for whatever particular problem or skill they're working on at that moment?
Well, I think you would just go to the data first, looking at what their level has been identified by already, also aligning that. So you look at their grade level, you then look at what you're teaching, and you just try and plan for whatever misconceptions they may have, or if this is a topic that you'll be teaching that you believe that student would be struggling on, and then you can assign that student some skills that they can work on, that are some prerequisite skills that they can work on that tie into the content knowledge that you're teaching at the board. Because with the way you're describing it, the only way you're going to be able to assess what they know and what they're doing is if you do take the time to come back and see. But everybody's on different levels. So if you already pre-plan that I'm going to be teaching numbers, positive and negative integers, and you already know this student here is on the third grade level, but you want to put them on iReady, then you can be able to put them on positive and negative integers, maybe on a third grade level, or maybe even a second grade level with introduction to numbers, because that essentially ties into the content that you're teaching when it comes to, positive and negative integers using degrees or, yards in a football game, going forward, positive, going backwards, negative. So if you do all that pre-planning ahead of time, and then identify prerequisite skills that are not on grade level versus in addition to what you're teaching already at grade level, you'll be able to do that planning and be able to assess what they know based off of your plan. I think that's what I would do.
That sounds pretty good. Because what I was going to say, the iReady lesson that I signed them isn't in correlation with the lesson I'm teaching at the board.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I think as a teacher myself, I tend to struggle with not really assessing that, but I try to give them levels like we here teaching 7th grade math, but I try to get them like sometimes 5th and 6th grade levels on the iReady because they kind of help with their basic skills before they get to me with understanding the deeper knowledge or the deeper contents of the skills we're teaching at the board. So I think it's very beneficial for some kids, but then what do I do with those that I feel that they've been in the back on iReady for about 30 minutes working on the basic skills, but then they come up the front with me and they're still confused when it comes to the first or second step of solving the problem?
Well, with the way you teach and with the way the iReady program works, if they're in the back for 30 minutes, still struggling on a correlated skill that's at a lower grade level than what you are presenting, with my experiences of teaching the same content, teaching the same students, I'm having the students work on iReady, that's going to raise an eyebrow in the sense that maybe they weren't using the iReady program to fidelity. Maybe they were not paying attention to the lesson that was there on the screen, because iReady is very user-friendly, cartoons and everything like that, and it's math delivered to them on topics and using language that the students know. And so, we have a challenging group. However, because they love coming to your class and they love the way you teach and they do want to get better, I would, think that if they're on there for 30 minutes and still not getting it, and then when they come up to you and they're not getting it, there's some disconnect between what they were doing on the iReady system and if they were even doing it at all.
Correct.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I would say, if you want to really, get to the bottom of it, make sure there is some expectation that you have for all your students while working on iReady, that they must have this portion of iReady completed, because then that gives you some data points, that gives you some numbers to be able to go and look at, right? So if a student spends 30 minutes on iReady, he meets your expectation by completing an assessment, and then he comes up to you or she comes up to you while you're giving direct instruction, and they still struggle, and you go then after the class is over and you open up iReady, you see what that student does, and they met that expectation. Well, then you can look at the data points in there to see, well, what did they get wrong? Maybe identify where their misconceptions are or were, and then you'll be able to say, now I know what that student needed, because without that piece, that assessment piece, or whatever that expectation is on iReady, if they, you're never going to know what they were doing back there, right? And then they come up to you and you're like, hey, this person was there for 30 minutes and they're still struggling, and then you go to check their iReady status and what they did, and it shows they didn't meet that deliverable, they didn't meet that expectation. Now you're going to have another conversation with them. Well, what were you doing for the whole 30 minutes? Still not getting to the point of, well, what is it that this student doesn't know or does know?
Okay, then. So when we tie that back into instructional strategies, maybe I would say I just got to come up with better ways to have a better rotation back and forth. Or just, I say, moving about within the classroom.
I would say that, but then just making sure that they know when you're in the station, this is the outcome or this is the deliverable that you must produce, so that you can double check to see if they got the skill or didn't.
Okay.
Because if you're not holding them accountable for any work put produced on the iReady when they're in that station, you're not gonna know what they know or don't know. If they come up here and they know it, then you can assume they probably did their work in iReady, right? But if they don't know it, and then if they didn't do any work back here and you don't know, and they come up here and they still don't know, and then you go to the computer and you see that they didn't do any work on iReady, then now it's like, I know they don't know it, but what specifically in their misunderstanding do they not get? You're not gonna know. It's gonna be a guessing game.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
But I do also want to say, lastly, the instructional strategy that I did see you use, that I always see you use and like, was when you had the students, or when you annotated the word problem, where you was able to highlight and circle and underline the words that are needed to help them solve the problem. I love that, and also for the fact that I see the teachers in English using it as well. So here you're tying a skill that they're learning in English into a strategy that they're learning in math, and it's just a wonderful thing to see. So keep doing that.
All right, Dan. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that feedback, and I will keep that in mind moving forward. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.